Sugimiko observes that the intruders have figured out the cameras and traps completely, suggesting a well-planned invasion intended to avoid causing a ruckus. He tells Ibuki that it's good news since there are no classes on the first floor of the training building, granting him permission to go as wild as he wants. Ibuki retorts that it's not good news, as he has 50 minutes until the next chime and he needs to keep blocking the attackers. He tells Sugimiko to shut up and let him concentrate. Sugimiko advises him to stay calm, assuring him that he will be fine and that he, as the commander, will lead him to victory. Ibuki runs away, and the Hitman remark that he has been a stubborn brat for a while now, but will soon reach his limits. They all attack him simultaneously, and Sugimiko instructs him to kick the door 8 meters ahead. Ibuki kicks it, releasing tables and furniture that entrap the Hitman. Sugimiko reveals that there are many empty classrooms in the training building, equipped with traps that activate the special devices. Since the enemy won't activate them, Ibuki must do it himself. He activates some traps while running, ensnaring the Hitman. Masachi gets irritated by his tricks, and Kamura tells Sugimiko that stalling won't help him. Sugimiko agrees, but explains that the time they are buying helps narrow the gap, and by utilizing the traps, Hitman cannot maintain formation. This creates a series of one-on-one confrontations, which is Ibuki's domain. Ibuki punches a Hitman, taking him down, and is amazed by Sugimiko's instructions that have turned the battle in his favor. Master Chicken is annoyed, unable to believe that Ibuki, a mere kid, is causing so much trouble. The Hitmen are bewildered by his transformation. Ibuki is pleased, thinking he can now easily endure the 50 minutes, but he lets his guard down and gets attacked by reinforcements. They all watch him through the cameras, noting he still has 40 minutes to go as the situation worsens. Kamara, unable to stand it, declares that he is going, but Sugimiko tells him that not believing in Arakuni is equivalent to not believing in him, the decision maker. Kamara tells him that Ibuki can handle it. Sugimiko asserts that entrusting this task to Ibuki is evidence enough. Honiko inquires if something wrong, and Sugimiko reassures her that it's nothing, continuing to watch the battle. Ibuki, overwhelmed, lose. Suddenly, he starts to fight back, shocking everyone. He tells the Hitman to come to him together, indifferent to the outcome. Despite knowing he will lose, they cannot stop watching. The teacher notices that the entire class is using their phones and wonders if his lesson is truly that boring. Ibuki reaches the end of the building, realizing that they cannot stop watching. The teacher notices that the entire class is using this lesson is truly that boring. Ibuki reaches the end of the building, realizing that if the hitmen reach this point, they will reach the classroom wing. He vows not to let them touch Akabane, even if it kills him. Masachika orders the hitmen to back off, frustrated by the effort she has to exert, questions why an outsider like Ibuki is involved and what makes Akabane so special. She points a gun at him, telling him to choose her and forget about Akabane, offering him his last chance to marry her. She urges him not to embarrass her, calling it a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Ibuki retorts that Akabane is 10 million times more his type and declines her offer, cursing her. She lowers her gun and orders the hitmen to kill him and throw him into the ocean, not wanting to see his face again. All the hitmen charge at him, but help arrives in time. Kavara is surprised that Ibuki endured 50 minutes alone. Tsukimiko commends him for doing well. The hitmen attempt to flee as they realize they are surrounded. Team members express their relief, but remind Ibuki that without Tsukimiko's guidance, he would have died instantly. Ibuki curses them, telling them they should understand how much he risked for them. They assure him that they will now show him how it's done and address Ibuki as the 23rd member. Downy roots fight stubborn odors in one wash. What if there's another way? Paradigm, the new refillable fragrance by Prada.
Sometimes it takes a different approach to see the possibilities all around you. Capella University is an online accredited university, so you can be confident you're getting a quality education on your terms.
Telling him to watch. Tsukimiko tells them that no one must know about this fight, and they need to clean up everything and return to class before break time ends. They have 10 minutes. The team charges at the hitmen and quickly takes care of them. Tsukimiko laughs because it didn't even take them a minute. Ibuki is amazed by their skills and realizes he has no time to sit back, so he quickly tries to leave. Tsukimiko asks where he is going, and he reveals that he is going to settle things with Masachika. He is tired of falling behind and vows never to let her get her hands on Honeko. He is determined to catch her. They all scold him, telling him not to give them any more trouble, reminding him that it all happened because he provoked her. They ask what he will do if he catches her. Tsukimiko tells everyone to calm down and reveals that Ibuki approves of them. Despite that, he is going alone, and Tsukimiko is sure that Ibuki will step into territories they cannot enter. He throws Ibuki a card, and Kagara tells him that he is one of them now. If he does something that ruins their name, he will teach him a lesson. Meanwhile, Masachika cannot understand why she couldn't pull the trigger. Normally, she wouldn't have mercy on someone who disobeys her. However, it doesn't matter because there is no way Ibuki could have survived against that many hitmen. She bids goodbye to her first love. Ibuki appears out of nowhere and tells her not to get too carefree. She is stunned, wondering if it's his ghost. He reveals that he is still alive and tells her that she is coming with him. She understands. He takes her to the boss. Her father tells her that he heard from Ibuki that she tried to hurt Honeko. She denies it, claiming she didn't do anything and that he can check the school cameras where she won't be found. He asks how she knows about the cameras. Annoyed, he says that he told the gang he doesn't intend to make Honeko the heir, instructing everyone to stay away from her, but no one listens to him anymore. Ibuki tells the boss that he is here to follow through with what they discussed earlier and wants Masachika exiled from the gang. The guards ask if he wants to die. Ibuki argues that if her right to inherit the gang is taken away, there will be no reason for her to target Honeko. She won't need to hire any hitmen, and Honeko could graduate safely. The guards try to drag him out, but he resists. Masachika tells her father not to listen to Ibuki, insisting that the gang needs her and she is the only one capable of taking over the Jingu gang. Ibuki breaks free and declares that he doesn't care if the gang disappears. He will crush it if he has to, so that she can laugh and smile. The boss commends Ibuki's courage, noting that few members possess such brazenness. He takes out his gun, agreeing with Ibuki that he needs to let go of his parental affection. Ibuki tells him to stop, but the boss shoots. Ibuki asks who kills their own daughter, but the boss reveals he shot the gang's emblem. He tells her that she's exiled and should never show her face again. She trembles and pleads, but he declares he has no daughters and leaves. Masachika trembles and screams that there is no way. She is the daughter meant to take over the gang. This is the end for her. She'll blame Ibuki, not Akabane. She curses him, lamenting that she has been abandoned by her father, is now homeless and jobless, and her credit card will be canceled. She blames him entirely. Seeing her crying, he tells her to stay strong because exile is just a word. No matter the distance, family remains family. Tears fall from her eyes, and she tells him to shut up, confessing her love and proposing marriage. He notices she is losing it and never expected things to end. Like this. Unsure of her next move, he tells her he understands and invites her to stay in his place. The next day, she enters Ibuki's home and greets his father, calling him father-in-law and offering him a castella. His father is confused and asks Ibuki what is going on. Ibuki explains that it's for surveillance, intending to keep her there so she doesn't scheme anything about Akabane. He adds that she has some important information. In her room, Masachika wonders if her greeting was appropriate and if Ibuki thinks of her as a vulgar woman. She resolves to behave herself, blushing at the thought of living together. Ibuki calls her by her first name, telling her she no longer needs to target Akabane's life and asks her to reveal a traitor within the class. She prepares to tell him. The members of the class are shocked to learn that Masachika Jingu has been exiled. Ibuki explains to them that Akabane will no longer be targeted by Hitman. Despite this, they all appear displeased, which confuses him, prompting him to ask about their reaction. They are discontented because he has stolen the limelight from them, which he thought they had accepted. They all leave dissatisfied. The Hitman threat is now gone, and he just needs to catch the traitor who betrayed Akabane. Earlier, Masachika shows him the messages from the traitor, revealing that she received this message 3 months ago and became aware of Haneko's existence. They never responded to her messages, but after seeing this message, she was convinced of their seriousness. He is shocked by the messages, and she tells him the name of the traitor. Back in the present, Ibuki suggests to Sumiko that they should work together to guard her today. He agrees. Sukemiko is the commander of class 3 to 4, while Ibuki is still an amateur, and he keeps pushing important rules onto him. If all of this was to influence the Hitman to kill Haneko, then he will not forgive him. Akabane is guarded 24 hours a day on the road to school, around her house, and at her travel destinations, and this will not change until she graduates. Today, her route is her path home, and if she goes straight, it will not be a problem and will not take long. She helps many people on her way, which annoys him. The coast is clear from everyone's side, and with the Hitman gone, the area seems completely safe. Sumihiko asks Ibuki if he wants to talk to him, because he has had that look on his face the whole time. Ibuki asks if he's known the guys from 3rd year, class 4 for long. Sumihiko confirms they've been together for 10 years. He is stunned. Sumihiko further reveals that they are like childhood friends, more like a family. It's a bit embarrassing for him, so Ibuki shouldn't tell others. Ibuki grabs him and asks why he has betrayed the class. Sumihiko is amazed and smiles, admitting that he has already been found out. Ibuki is angry that he actually admitted it, and that everything he said was a lie. Ibuki asks what Haneko means to him. Sumihiko straightens and replies that even if someone tried to harm her, he wouldn't care. He then asks if Ibuki plans to expose him in front of everyone. Ibuki answers that he'll take him down first, then bring him before the boss. Sumihiko laughs, says he's too soft, then lands a quick punch and apologizes. There's no time to talk. The Rai has arrived. In some building, Ibuki is tied up, and another guy asks Sumihiko what is up with him. Sumihiko reveals that he just roughed him up a little. The guy says that this means he has been exposed as a spy. Tsukimiko reveals that he won't help them get rid of him unless they pay him for it. Ibuki wakes up, remembering that just a few minutes ago he was talking to Tsukimiko. Tsukimiko greets him and welcomes him to hell, but he is joking. Ibuki wonders if this is their hideout. The boss asks where Akabane is right now, and Tsukimiko says that she went to play with her friends. The guy laughs, saying that she is so carefree that she doesn't even realize that her life is in danger. Tsukimiko asks about the people behind them, and the guy says that they are soldiers he has gathered from all over the country, a group of elite men. He says that Masachika just threw money around, so she ended up losing. And when it comes to hitmen, quality is better than quantity. Sumihiko notices that the atmosphere is different from the third-rate ones he has seen. He is angry because Masachika wasn't good enough, so he is trying to get someone else to target Aki. The other man asks his brother if Sumihiko is the informant he hired to infiltrate the school. The leader shakes his head, explaining the real informant is already on campus. Sumihiko adds with a smirk that the informant is actually 50 years old. He shows them a picture and asks if they are talking about this guy. He had heard that a new teacher had been hired recently, so he decided to say hello. The teacher told him that he was going to meet up place. Tsukimiko recognizes them from the Ogami faction of the gang. They all take out their weapons. Suddenly, Ibuki breaks free and kicks one of them in the face. They are stunned that he broke the ropes without any help. Tsukimiko expected it and thought that it was time he got moving. The guy is stunned that they are Hanako's bodyguards. Ibuki is confused and asks if they are not partners. Sumihiko denies the accusation. Ibuki asks if he's the traitor who leaked information about Akabane to provoke Masachika. Tsukimiko claims it's news to him, but admits that, as commander, he doesn't believe risking his life to protect Akabane is worth it. Everyone else is giving their all except him, which corresponds to betrayal. Shocked that his words were twisted, Ibuki snaps that Sumimiko should have been clear from the start. Tsukimiko insists he was. When Ibuki brings up the email sent to Masachika, Sumimiko reveals he was deceived by an imposter. Twisted, Ibuki snaps that Sumimiko should have been clear from the start. Tsukimiko insists he was. When Ibuki brings up the email sent to Masachika, Sumimiko reveals he was deceived by an imposter and feels betrayed. He then kicks Ibuki into cover, handles some enemies, and joins their boss. Ibuki asks if Sumiko is on his side, and he confirms. Ibuki urges them to finish off their enemies quickly so they can talk. Tsukimiko agrees. 2 years ago, 2 gangsters cornered a kid, aggressively demanding his wallet and threatening him with violence. As a student at Susoji School, he should be carrying plenty of pocket money. Sumihiko, realizing he's in a dangerous situation, notes he can't make a scene without attracting unwanted attention, which could make things worse. Just then, Ibuki bursts onto the scene with a fierce expression, smashing the gangsters' heads together and throwing them to the ground with remarkable force. He approaches Sumihiko, introducing himself as a fellow student in the same year. Noting that Sumihiko is already in trouble so early in the school year, Ibuki offers his hand to help. Sumihiko, overwhelmed and crying, pulls back, saying he has no money to give. Ibuki's frustration boils over. He curses Sumihiko as a fool, scolding him for his weak demeanor that attracts troublemakers like these gangsters. Ibuki insists that he needs to stand up for himself and hold his head high. To help him, Ibuki thrusts a pair of earrings into Sumihiko's hands, claiming that these will make him look more respectable and ward off future trouble. Sumihiko, skeptical, worries that the earrings will only make him stand out more. accepts them. Ibuki reassures him that with these earrings he won't be targeted again. Suddenly, Akabane arrives, running toward them and scolding Ibuki for getting into yet another fight, despite his promise to stop fighting once high school began. Ibuki denies making any such promise. Akabane insists he said it while sleeping in elementary school. Bewildered and frustrated, Ibuki asks how she remembers such a specific detail from so long ago, clearly bored by the situation. The scene then shifts to the present, where Ibuki is engaged in a fierce battle with a group of masked men. He exerts all his strength, but eventually collapses, gazing up at them, feeling their superior power. One of the masked men smirks, commenting that Ibuki has a lot of spunk, which is why they decided to test him. However, he's just an inexperienced kid. Ibuki, infuriated, demands to know what they're doing. One of the men suggests they should eliminate him now, but another interrupts, noting their boss sitting there. Ibuki notes Sumihiko has strategically positioned himself as a distraction, but he remains puzzled by the ongoing attempts on Akabane's life. A gangster shouts at Sumihiko, demanding he release his brother and questioning whether he realizes the consequences. Sumihiko calmly explains that he is the property of the Jingu gang and he will be disposed of, but Ibuki is merely an outsider. If he hurts them, they cannot take revenge on the third year, Class 4, as it would publicly expose their intention to target Akabane, making it a declaration of war. The gangster, enraged, accuses Sumihiko of deliberately creating this situation, calling him a traitor and questioning whether he is trying to make the gang his enemy. Sumihiko smirks, stating that he already has a family he values deeply, a family of 21 members. Now this family is at risk for the sake of a single girl. He would prefer to ensure their safety, and suggests that if they withdraw their forces now, perhaps everyone could have a better time. He just wants to protect Class 3 to 4 as they've grown up together and want to graduate together. That's why he shoulders all the responsibilities. The gangster orders another to report it to the higher-ups, asking what he should say to them. Meanwhile, Ibuki continues fighting the masked men, struggling as they overpower him. As they beat him, mocking his efforts, Sumihiko arrives, telling Ibuki to rest as it's his job to protect him too. Smiling, Ibuki notes the earring he gave Sumihiko. He explains that they can't afford to lose because if Ibuki is Akabane's bodyguard, then he is the bodyguard of third year, Class 4. Ibuki looks at him in shock, thinking this guy has his own convictions, and he's moving forward with the intent to protect. That means he's just like me. He realizes that Sumihiko is not a traitor. Together, they charge the gangsters, knocking them down with their unique moves. Ibuki is astonished, thinking, what's wrong with him? Why is he a leader? He concludes because Sumihiko is the strongest. As they enter a hall, Ibuki shouts at Sumihiko, demanding to know why the boss entrusted him with such a significant role. Laughing, Sumihiko brushes it off, but Ibuki insists it's not a laughing matter. Sumihiko crushes something in his wrist, revealing that he's actually angry. He smirks and asks Ibuki if he can lend a hand in hunting down the traitors, stating that nothing is more reliable than having him as an ally. He extends his hand. Ibuki, eager to find the traitor who sold out Akabane, realizes he's been manipulated into doing all the work. With 21 suspects left from his top-secret mission, he now has the best of Class 3 to 4 on his side. He takes Sumihiko's hand, telling him not to hold back. As Ibuki steps outside, looking at the moon, he thinks that for a moment he won. At this rate, he's confident he can keep Akabane safe until they graduate. Suddenly, Akabane appears and he freaks out, asking her why she's there. She explains that she came to play a game with Nine, but more importantly, asks where he's coming from. She then scolds him, citing the business affecting public morals. Out, asking her why she's there. She explains that she came to play a game with Nine, but more importantly, asks where he's coming from. She then scolds him, citing the business affecting public morals regulations law and accusing him of using a hostess club by falsifying his identity, calling him a pervert. He tries to explain that she's mistaken, but as Akabane chases after him to beat him, Sumihiko laughs at the scene. In the past, as Sumihiko visits the Jingu gang, his master asks him why he's there and how his high school life is going. Sumihiko shows him a picture, stating that whenever he sees this guy, there's never a dull moment. The master looks at the picture and asks who it is. Sumihiko explains that it's someone who can seriously protect Akabane. He states that if the time comes when they need to act, he'd like to add Arakuni to their squad as a bodyguard. Calling the man the Jingu boss, Sumihiko then bows down, asking him to do him this favor. In the present, Sumihiko laughs while Ibuki, internally cursing him, silently pleads for help.
Yeah, now it's been
Brian Cox? You. Oh, yeah, I think he's just here for the access to number one for students. My name is Brian. My interests are food. I'm saving money on food. Oh, Mr. Fox. Not you. Him. He really loves those discounts. The tale begins in a modest home where a middle-aged woman stays on a phone call while simultaneously managing. Chores. The caller expresses concern over her lifestyle as a single mother, but she reassures them that everything is manageable. She then asks if the caller is really busy caring for grandpa and grandma. As soon as the topic of having someone new comes up, tired of hearing that. She firmly tells the caller that her daughter, Koto Chan, doesn't need anyone else beside her. This is the story of a in a modest home where a middle-aged woman stays on a phone call while simultaneously managing chores. The caller expresses concern over her lifestyle as a single mother, but she reassures them that everything is manageable. She then asks if the caller is really busy caring for grandpa and grandma. As soon as the topic of having someone new comes up, the woman clenches her teeth in irritation, clearly tired of hearing that. She firmly tells the caller that her daughter, Koto Chan, is enough, so she doesn't need anyone else beside her. This is the story of a single mother who despises men, and perhaps fate will soon lead her to someone unusual. While she and Koto are out running errands, Koto suddenly feels the urge to pee, making her mother tense. She scolds Koto, frustrated she didn't use the bathroom, hurries home, telling her she can't wait as she has something urgent to attend to. Suddenly, a voice behind her calls out, saying she's dropped something. She turns to see a man lying on someone's lap pointing to the ground, saying the item fell from her bag. She bends down, picks it up, and thanks him before rushing away again, thinking he was helpful. But then she freezes, realizing the guy was a college student, something odd, since it's the first time she's seen someone lounging in the park at 8 p.m. Though he was kind, helping her out, she immediately decides she doesn't want her daughter involved with someone like him. To her shock, Koto says she likes that guy. Surprised, the mother asks what she means, and Koto explains he looks like a character from a show. Disagreeing, the mother says she also likes that character, but doesn't see the resemblance. After finishing her office work, she sighs, thinking there's no chance she'll run into that guy again. Elsewhere, the girl hugs a boy named Yuki and kisses him on the cheek. Meanwhile, the mother returns to her apartment, glances sideways, and freezes, realizing the same mysterious guy is her neighbor. Not only that, he gives off the impression of a playboy. Yuki then approaches her daughter, quickly spotting the resemblance and realizing they're his new neighbors who just moved in. He crouches down, asking the little one for her name. The baby introduces herself as Koto-chan, while her mother remains stunned by the strange incident. Koto curiously asks Yuki if the girl knew Sensing he might be indecent, she grows suspicious of his behavior, assuming his lifestyle is irresponsible. She thanks him for helping that morning, but criticizes him for being a student who skips class, believing he wastes time instead of focusing on his studies. Her frustration escalates as she angrily steps forward, declaring her disbelief that she now has to live next to someone so trashy, slamming the door behind her with finality. Yuki stands confused, questioning if she really just called him trash. He struggles to grasp how enjoying life makes him one, though part of him begins to wonder if it's true. Finality. Yuki stands confused, questioning if she really just called him trash. He struggles to grasp how enjoying life makes him one, though part of him begins to wonder if it's true. With a light knock of his head against the door, he mutters to himself that she's a tough mother. His phone suddenly rings and he answers, arranging to meet someone at his place the next day since he lacks money to go out. And she remains irritated by her situation. Finding it hard to focus with someone like him next door, she becomes uneasy, thinking he's a poor influence on her daughter. From behind, a kind voice gently greets Nirihara-chan, asking how she's settling into the new office. She responds politely, crediting his help for her smooth adjustment. The older man compliments her, noting that people are already talking about her beauty, especially since no one had seen a young graduate move in for over a decade. He laughs, realizing they hadn't even hosted a welcome party for her yet. Without warning, he lightly the office Laptop. She watches her daughter. Kodo continues to protest, claiming the food tastes bad. Later that night, Mirihara is exhausted, barely holding herself up at her laptop. She watches her daughter sleep from the doorway and reminds herself she must keep pushing forward to become a full-time employee. She reflects on how she once apologized to her own mother for not choosing a different path after her previous marriage failed. Relying on someone else only made her feel worse. For someone like her, love only causes problems. Wobbles and she collapses. In a numb voice, she calls her daughter's name before blacking out. Koda stands in shock, unable to grasp what just happened. Meanwhile, Yuki returns home with breakfast and a girl. He notices the neighbor's door ajar and hears Kodo calling out, handing the food to the girl and asking her to leave. He rushes into the apartment, finding the mom on the floor. He gently tries to wake her, but Mirihara, trembling, tells him to stay away. She doesn't need a man's help. Stunned, Yuki snaps. Still teary-eyed, gazes at him and says he looks like a cool character. Yuki turns back, amused, especially since he's still wearing an apron. He prepares a table full of delicious food, while Narihara slowly wakes up, her head still pounding. Noticing she's awake, Yuki guesses she fainted from anemia, and tells her he informed her office. He adds that she's clearly pushing herself too hard. Looking around at her apartment, he wonders aloud if she's doing everything alone. Mentioning he has a younger sister, he says he understands what it's like. He tells her bluntly that she has to rely on people sometimes. The woman clenches her fists and apologizes, admitting that as a single mother with no support, every time she seeks outside help, her confidence weakens. He closes the door behind him. The mother and daughter begin signed with their names, quietly muttering that even someone like him deserves a little courtesy. She rings the bell repeatedly until he finally opens the door. Spotting the meat inside, Yukai lights up, briefly lost in thought. Tuko, unsure how to react, urges Koto to head home. But she steps forward and loudly thanks Yuki, saying she loved the meal and is grateful he helped her mom. He smiles softly and closes the door. Koto sighs in relief as Tuko gently pats her head. Just then, a loud crash followed by furious shouting echoes from Yuki's apartment, leaving both of them frozen, Tuko visibly shaken. Back home, Tuko turns on the TV, surprising Koto. It's the first time she's ever been allowed to watch it. Her man's rage ignites as soon as he sees Tuko. He tightens his grip on Yuki, yelling at him, accusing him of chasing his woman despite already having one. He threatens to kill him. Tuko panics, unsure if stepping in would escalate things. The girl clings to the angry man, apologizing and admitting it's all her fault. Tuko can't grasp the situation and steps back out, thinking about the 200,000 yen. Then she remembers the overly flirty girl she saw when she take the beating. It hurts. kisses her, whispering thanks again. In that moment, she realizes something. Aside from her own child, she's never felt such a strong urge to protect someone. But her thoughts are spinning. She's amazed by the flavor and asks if he followed a recipe. He casually replies that he didn't. She's amazed by the flavor and asks if he followed a recipe. He casually replies that he didn't. All intuition, then asks if she's better at cooking. Annoyed, she raises her voice, saying she doesn't even know what kind of help he expects from her. She reminds him she's busy and that this whole thing feels too one-sided. Yuki jumps onto the sofa and says it wouldn't be fair if only he received help. He knocks on the wall and tells her that it's shared with his living room. If she ever needs anything from Aaron, says it wouldn't be fair if only he received help. He knocks on the wall and tells her that it's shared with his living room. If she ever needs anything from Aaron's table, she just has to knock, and he'll be there. He smiles, thinking about the food. Tuco's mouth waters. It's that good. She tells herself she hates that he's a bad influence, but it's nice not needing to be. Tuco's mouth waters. It's that good. She tells herself she hates that he's a bad influence, but it's nice not needing to be. Glances at him. She worries that getting too close might be a bad influence on Kodo. Meanwhile, Kodo happily eats and asks if Yuki can come over again, saying she wants to eat his cooking every day. Suddenly, Tuco turns to Yuki and warns him that if he ever hurts her daughter, she'll never forgive him. As he picks up his chopsticks, he pauses and pulls a list from his pocket. He explains that he had a few tasks in mind. Things she could help with. Whenever she knocked on the wall, Tuco eyes the long list and flatly counts if she's never going to knock. Her to knock if she ever needs help. She fully stirs, Yuki leans over and kisses her forehead, gently calling for her to wake up. And before she fully stirs, Yuki leans over and kisses her forehead, gently calling for her to wake up. He's hovering above her. Even Kodo looks up, mildly surprised, but not shocked. For her, Yuki is like a prince. Tuco jolts upright, screaming in anger and backing away, calling for her to know what she's doing in her bedroom. But Yuki calmly points to Kodo and explains that she called without much protest. Back inside, Tuko crouches beside Kodo and gently scolds her, warning her not to call Yuki unless it's She believes Yuki will always come when she asks. Tears begin to form in her eyes. Later, while preparing breakfast, Tuko tastes the food and winces. It's bitter. She urges. Tears begin to form in her eyes. Later, while preparing breakfast, Tuko tastes the food and winces. It's bitter. She urges Kodo to eat her carrots, but Kodo bolts from the table.
Performance, durability, affordability. Only one place to Harbor Freight.
The new fam feast with 8 pieces of fire-grilled chicken. Let's get loco. El Pollo Loco.
Big day, everybody. That's the spirit. Big day, everybody. That's the spirit. We're having lots of fun.
Rushes to the wall and starts pounding it, shouting for help. She complains that she genuinely needed help. After the meal, Yuki leaves again. Tuko hugs Kodo tightly, warning her not to bang on the wall again unless it's absolutely really is bitter. Kodo, looking gloomy, tells her mom she genuinely needed help. After the meal, Yuki leaves again. Tuko hugs Kodo tightly, warning her not to bang on the wall again unless it's absolutely only she is allowed to do that. Even after showering, she remains irritated and lectures Kodo again, reminding her of what her own mother used to say, that they shouldn't depend on men. She's still fuming when something catches her eye, a bug crawling across the floor. Instantly panicked, she starts banging the wall, screaming for help, shouting apologies, saying this is the one thing she simply cannot deal with. Tears stream down her face. Suddenly, a disturbing memory resurfaces. She tries to recall who among them had said such a thing. Tells herself to stop. It's futile to dwell on it. Tells herself to stop. It's futile to dwell on it. At that moment, Kodo leans in and whispers that she wants to go outside. The man assumes she's simply tired, while the women sympathetically remark that it can't be helped, even though they were being kind to her. Their words weigh heavily on Tuko. Kodo begins to cry, saying she wants to go home and that adults are frightened. Tuko apologizes to everyone and says she'll be leaving. She regrets coming in the first place. Now that she reflects on it, Kodo is extremely timid and has likely picked up on various things by herself. Tuko apologizes once more and comments on how left speechless as he effortlessly lifts her up and asks if it's her first time riding like this. He appears and offers to carry Kodo on his shoulders. Both of them are left speechless as he effortlessly lifts her up and asks if it's her first time riding like this. To know why he's here and where he's been the on another level. The guys approach Yuki and call for a toast. He agrees, raising his glass, but Tuko sternly tells him to stop. On another level. The guys approach Yuki and call for a toast. He agrees, raising his glass, but Tuko sternly tells him to stop. Kodo had thrown a tantrum earlier because she was afraid of grown-ups. Yuki asking if that means he's an exception. If so, then it tasting people, and they all join in for a toast. Tuko then tells him it's time to head back to his own place. It's been long enough. Later that night, her doorbell rings. It's Yuki-kun. She asks what he wants, muttering that he can repay her for the transit fare. Tells him it's time to head back to his own place. It's been long enough. Later that night, her doorbell rings. It's Yuki-kun. She asks what he wants, muttering that he can repay her for the transit fare. She opens the door. He's standing there, completely soaked, and asks if she could let him stay the night. Tuko is left in shock. She opens the door. He's standing there, completely soaked, and asks if she could let him stay the night. Tuko is left in shock and asks why she should let him stay. Curious, she inquires whether he lost something along those lines. She questions why he hasn't informed the landlord. Curious, she inquires whether he lost something along those lines. She questions why he hasn't informed the landlord. And it's complicated, mainly because he hasn't been paying his rent, and things just sort of ended up like this. She calls him trash, and he admits it's embarrassing. She then asks if he wouldn't be better off relying on one of the girls he always hangs around with. He reveals that he's been out wandering all night for the past week. She then asks if he wouldn't be better off relying on one of the girls he always hangs around with. He reveals that he's been out wandering all night for the past week. her that men like him are absolutely worthless. Koda responds people should help those in need, and although Yuki helps her when mom's struggling, she won't return the favor. Eventually, she relents and lets him inside. He asks if she has any spare clothes he could wear. She retorts that his sense of fashion is terrible, and he casually mentions that his current outfit was something he got from a junior at work. She retorts that his sense of fashion is terrible, and he casually mentions that his current outfit was something he got from a junior at work. Infuriated, she demands to know why on earth was she asks if they belong to her ex-husband. Something she never threw away because the clothes. 4 years ago, her husband said he.
Domino's best.
4 years ago, her husband said he.
Domino's best.
Modern marketing. Modern marketing can feel like you need to read consumers' minds.
The tale begins in a modest home.
Read consumers' minds.
The tale begins in a modest home. Then, strange feeling. She wonders aloud why he's smiling so much. She tells him it's just a way because the husband said he needed them for a last-minute trip. It was the first time she went shopping with Kodo. She had just given birth, was in pain and sleep-deprived, yet she did her best and managed to buy them. But they turned out to be the wrong size. Yuki laughs, and she recalls that although they were only one to buy them. But they turned out to be the wrong size. Yuki laughs, and she recalls that although they were only one size, he refused to wear them because it would have reflected poorly on him. But back then, she couldn't afford to care too much about her husband's pride. Yuki asks if the shirt looks better on him, and she chuckles, replying that it absolutely does, and who would have guessed it was such a handsome shirt. Kodo exclaims that he looks and keep it. Seeing him wear, Kodo says she wanted to play with him, and when she peeks over at him, she remarks that he looks upset. Tuko notices that he even makes faces in his sleep. The following morning, she realizes that neither of them is awake yet. Can't be helped, she thinks, and decides she'll try contacting the landlord. As she checks the documents for the contact details, she spots the room number and can't believe what she's seeing. begins to, as she checks the documents for the contact details, she spots the room number and can't believe what she's seeing. She begins to hear her neighbor. The door opens and she asks if this isn't Yuki's apartment. The man replies as if she's another one of her. Stunned, she asks if he isn't friends with Yuki. He replies that they're not friends. Sure, he let Yuki stay with him for a while, but he never did any of the chores he asked him to do and left piles of trash everywhere. Worse, he brings girls over only to get beaten up by their boyfriends. What he absolutely can't forgive is that whenever they're out together, Yuki steals all the girls he himself is interested in. And he bets that's what Yuki was aiming for from the start. This is how he repays his generosity. The only reason he let things slide was because it was easier to pick up girls when Yuki was around. Suddenly, Yuki appears and apologizes to Tiger, asking him to let it go and promising that he'll actually clean up this time. He adds that blaming him for being rejected is crossing the line. In response, Tiger smacks him with a box and tells him to quiet down. He's not letting him cross the line. In response, Tiger smacks him with a box and tells him to quiet down. He's not letting him